Okay, mic check. It's working. Track check. It's got mono. What's it doing?
Music non-stop. Techno pop.
That's not doing. That's not right.
Music non-stop. Techno pop.
It's not a good start, is it? Okay, that seems to have fixed it. I'll have to keep an eye on that. Right, okay. Yeah, I guess I'd better explain what stream I'm doing today, what the purpose of it is, and kind of what I'm going to be doing with it. So I've been wanting to kind of get back into making some music recently. I used to do it a lot when I was younger, and I, through various combination of things, getting older, having kids and whatnot, you kind of fall away from it, and it's getting to the point where since I've done proper electronic music, we're talking at least sort of 7 or 8 years, probably before my first one was born, that I've done it properly. And I at the time that I sort of wrapped it up, I'd just gone through a little phase of trying to get hold of various 80s synthesizers, just from loving that sound, clear, clean digital sound that you get from a lot of these synths. So I've got a couple just kind of lying around that I've never really used. So I wanted to come up with a reason to use them, and I also kind of been listening to a lot of Kraftwerk lately, particularly the 86 album Electric Cafe. I'm kind of getting a bit obsessive about it really because it's such a good album. It's very very much underrated, often kind of seen as the kind of low point of Kraftwerk's output almost, and certainly it marked a lot of creative differences within the band that kind of led to the breakup of the kind of classic lineup, with um, two of the members leaving and just kind of going back to the core um, Florian and Ralph. So anyway, so yeah. So what I was going to do today is I'm going to try and go through a particular track from that album, Techno Pop, and I'm gonna see if I can kind of recreate a similar kind of track. Not exactly the same. I'm just playing around. And one of the ways that I used to try writing things and try putting new things together when I was starting out and learning how to create electronic music was to sort of break apart a track that I liked and see if I could make something similar, based on the same kind of techniques. So that's what I'm going to be doing today with this song. So anyway, I'm going to be using Ableton Live 8 to do this. I know it's nowhere near up to date, but it's what I was using when I finished. So I've had a little look at the newer ones, and lovely, fancy stuff going on. But I I would rather just for ease of use go with something that I know. So yeah, so this is the track Techno Pop. I've also got the two tracks around it. So the way that this track works on the album, obviously we're back in '86. We're in the days of LPs. CDs were just kind of breaking through and coming out. Um, it was the album was pressed with one side with the first three tracks and three tracks on the other side, and that side A is almost kind of a continuous track. All three tracks have got lots of kind of elements of the other, and they all flow into each other at pretty much the same tempo and everything. Creates a very sort of seamless sound, and I think this is Kraftwerk kind of like looking at the emerging thing with DJs that was kind of coming out of the States at the time. So we're kind of before it gets huge, but certainly on the underground, this was the sort of first time you've got Chicago house and hip hop, DJs actually spinning sets to create like an hour of music that feels like it doesn't stop, and that's very much the theme of this, this opening set of tracks. It's meant to feel, I think, very much like a DJ set, and when the lyrics are all, music non-stop. So it's kind of to put it in some of that context there. So the first track on the album is Boing Boom Shack. Cracking little name for a track that. Um, and then you've got techno pop, and then you've got music non-stop. And I'm just going to like play a few sections from each record, so you can see how they're all kind of going together.
Boing, boom, cha. Boing, boom, cha.
I do apologise,
Boing,
but I will occasionally
boom,
just
cha.
flick in, and you'll get the cool stereo effect. I'm just gonna
Boom,
keep
cha.
checking that
Ping, boing,
my
ping, boom,
output is
cha.
in stereo,
Ping,
because
boing, ping,
I
boom,
mean, there
cha.
seems to be having a
Ping,
little issue with the lead or the jack or whatever it
boing,
is.
ping, boom, cha. Boing, ping, boom, cha. Boing, ping, boom, cha.
So straight away you can hear that very crisp
Boom, cha,
digital
cha, cha, cha,
80s
cha. Boing,
synth
boom, cha,
sound,
cha, cha, cha.
and you've got
Boing, boom, cha.
samplers going off in there as well. The samplers doing more complex things than they had in previous Kraftwerk records. This is obviously the advent of where you've got digital samplers rather than having to chop up the tapes and do it all in analog. You've got now machines with hard drives on that you can put the samples in and chop and mess with them.
Music non-stop, techno pop.
So I'm just going to stop it there. You see straight away it's a really kind of sparse sound that they've gone for. Like everything's very clean, everything's in its own space. You've got these big, probably digital reverbs going on there. Again, this is right about the time when digital reverb's becoming a big thing, and lots of artists using it at that period. Um, but it's still to me very very Kraftwerk. Like it's got that that robotic element coming through with the vocals. The synth sounds are like really nicely molded together. There's not like there's subtle layers going on. There's not a huge amount of layers, but the drums as well, very very clicky, very very precise. A lot of attack on the sound. Um, I'll come into techno pop in a minute because we're going to be spending probably all afternoon on that one. Um, but just to have a little listen to track 3, music non-stop. You'll hear very straight away very similar to what you was hearing in track 1. The tempo I think is maybe a fraction slower on this one. I'm not even sure if it is, but
Music non-stop.
again, lots of the same sort of vocal samples going on. Different drums, different
Music
vocal samples, but they're very, very similar to the ones in the earlier track.
Music non-stop.
And you got a lot of synthesized choral sounds in there, or sampled choral sounds as well. Um, these sort of sounds are really kind of typical of their time, and they're not things that a lot of modern tracks use anymore, but they really sort of date and place the time. So the track I'm going to be kind of breaking down and looking at seeing if I can recreate something in a similar vein is Techno Pop, second track on the album. I mean, this for me is like this track is the pinnacle of the whole little setup. It's about 7.5 minutes long, and it's it to me it's almost like proto trance music. Like the beat, the repetition, it's just very very it takes you into a zone. You have to kind of just kind of go with the rhythm and go with the beat. It's the kind of track that demands it, and even though it's kind of before you've got actual genuine what I would call trance music, that comes a little bit later with some of the early 90s synths that had big gates and delays and crazy little signal paths in them. to me, the way it's set out and the kind of the way they put the track together must have been a huge influence on a lot of early trance. So we'll play the track from the start because we're going to be looking at every little bit.
Music non-stop. Techno Pop.
So we start off with 16 bars of drums. Incidentally, very nice for a DJ to mix into, which it's not really the standard at this time for electronic music, but that's the way music was going.
Techno Pop.
So I'm going to stop it there. This motif, this synth line that you've got going here, this is going to be kind of present throughout the rest of the track almost. There's one change, one melodic change that happens in the song, which comes up in a few bars. You get a few bars of that, and then it's gone again, and then you're back to this. And this little riff here is like carrying probably 80-90% of the song. Like I say, very much similar to kind of how trance is structured. You've got these very very long, lengthy, repeated sections where it's not so much about the melody changing, but it's about the sounds changing and subtle changes within that. So this riff to just so that's, excuse me, I've got two synths going on at once, so let me just change that, or at least put it on something that's going to complement it. So yeah, that's the riff essentially. There. And that's essentially the whole thing. So what we'll do first of all, before we do anything, I'm just going to capture that as a basic. I'm not even thought about particularly what presets these are. Not even sure what that one is. I'll have to dig it out of the menu because the main menu don't actually tell you what sounds you've got. But we've got Crystal Choir on the TX81Z, and these will be kind of in stereo because of the way that I've got the thing set up. I'm not going to be using that technique too much today, but just to get us started off. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do at all. So let's get us to the loop.
Music non-stop.
Quite straightforward, I hope. So let's see if we can get a MIDI record of that. Oh dear, what was doing there? Just check. Yeah, mic's still on. Good. Happy days. Still in stereo. Happy days. So we're gonna record the MIDI loop and then we'll play it back and quantize it and whatnot. Okay, so that should, there'll be a usable loop in that one somewhere. So let's just put that track on stop for the time being. Take that off record. That should be going out to the TX81Z, but I'm not hearing it right now, so let me figure out what's going on there. Yeah. So let's quantize this. Oh, no, not like that. Not like that. Quantize settings. We probably want that on 16th and yeah, I don't know if it is a. Yeah, it's probably a triplet, isn't it? So we better allow that to do triplets. Right, so let's shorten that so we've got less variables to mess with. Where do we want to be? Do we want to be on that one, or do we want to be on the other? We could maybe move this. We'll move this a tiny fraction forward. No, that sounds wrong. Yeah. Okay, so that seems like it's roughly there. It gives me a chance now to introduce some of the mechanics and hardware that we're going to be using today. Just give me 1 second. I'm just going to pause the stream for 1 moment. There we go. Right, okay, so where was we? So I just captured the MIDI notes for the main synth line. That's going to kind of take us through the song. What I'm going to do a little bit later on is start to build some parallel lines, that something similar but not the same. So I can create a track that's like based on and influenced by heavily, like stupidly heavily, the track, and also kind of my own version of the track, which will absolutely sound nowhere near as good as Kraftwerk's in any way, shape, or form. But it'll be a fun little experiment. So yeah, so let's get that playing again. So at present, this is playing through a synthesizer called the TX81Z. It's a Yamaha frequency modulation synthesizer. I can't remember the exact year, but it's kind of early 80s. So the frequency modulation style of synthesizer, it's digital synth. It's a very different kind of way to what how synthesizers have generally been created before, by using what we call subtractive synthesis, is where you get an electronic oscillator, you create a waveform, and then you manipulate that waveform usually with filters and envelopes and things like that, and you've essentially taken away from and sculpting the sound out. The difference with a frequency modulation synthesizer, and I'll just show you the actual unit itself. It's just sat there under my APC20. It's got a nice diagram on the top of how it creates its sounds and what it does. It's even got a cool, I can't show you right now, but there's a little metal tray that slides out underneath it, which has got that same diagram, because obviously this is designed to be in a rack unit. The way that frequency modulation creates sounds is very different to subtractive synthesis. You've basically got waveforms that are modulating other waveforms, so it's not really a way of kind of subtracting from it. You're almost adding to the sound. It's not quite the same as additive synthesis. This bad boy over here is a little bit more like additive synthesis, but also more of a sort of sample-based synthesis. So with this, you've got a carrier wave and a modulating wave. So you've got one wave influencing the other one and changing its shape. Consequently, it's an absolute bastard to program. Like, technically, it can be completely programmed off this front panel here. You have to be absolutely masochistic to want to do that, because as you see, you've got about 8 buttons, and you're basically just scrolling through menu after menu after menu. And what you find when you're kind of creating frequency modulation type patches is that it's very, very much a case of having to line up very specific combinations. You'll be messing through the range of what the carrier wave is doing to the modulator wave, and it will be like mud, noise, horror, perfect, beautiful bell sound, mud, noise, horror. It kind of works like that. So it's a real labour of love to want to program these. Thankfully, I'm not going to be programming it at all today. I'm just going to be using patches, because one of the great things about this synth, it's got some of the best patches of, I think, any synthesizer that was ever released. There's loads of these that you will have heard on famous records. There's the classic Lately bass at C15. We'll have a look at that in a moment, which is probably the most famous patch on this thing. But there's also loads of other patches, drum kit sounds, all kinds of sounds really that are just fantastic. And like I say, they're so usable. You don't have to spend a lot of time getting in and editing this thing. It's just got patches that will work very well straight out of the box. So right, let's get this track playing again, and we'll have a look through some of the patches. So you get four banks, I think, with this one. You've got A, B, C, D, 5 banks, I. So A, B, C, D, and I. I think I is the one that you can put your own synths in, your own patches and things. So we're going to go to C, and we're going to go to C15. This is probably the most famous patch that this synthesizer does, called Lately bass. it was the bass line, I think, on Madonna's Vogue and quite another other big songs. It's still a really sought after and used sound, and there's loads of modern dance tracks that use this patch. I'm trying to think who it was. There was a techno producer, quite a big one, who's got in his studio, he's got a little bank of 4 of these, just tuned to lately bass and just all slightly detuned from each other, so you can make these big, huge bass patches with it. So what I'm going to start doing, I'm going to start building up a little collection of versions of this little synth line, because what techno pop does, it just kind of it's almost like, you know, they're just sat there in the studio going through the patches with the same line running through it, because it just like cycles through so many different sounds, really cool sounds, and it's just they're all very subtle variations and things like that. So we're going to kind of do something similar with this one. Okay, so what I think I'm going to do to give myself a little bit more flexibility as I'm pulling these tracks together is I'm going to put a couple of MIDI effects on. So I'm going to have a pitch effect, if I can get it to go to where it needs to be. So I'm going to drag that. So that's a 12-step down pitch effect, but I can change it to whatever. Oh God, you can go 128 steps down. What we're going to do with that is just choose the octave that we're playing. We're also going to have a note length effect. So this just is going to allow us to sort of act like an envelope and give us control over the length of the notes. So we should be an octave down now. Yeah. So that's, yeah, you can see obviously we can change the length of the note. We can put it right up to like 60 seconds, which is a bit ridiculous, but we could also gate it so it's real short and choppy. And obviously we can pull them in and out as we want. So I'm going to start off by recording one of these. And as you can see, we can see the latency as we record. We're going to be doing everything through these basically, but we will be able to tidy that up a bit later on. I can just set some track delay on the track itself. So that's that patch. Let's have a look at what else we've got on here that's going to be potentially useful to us. So we'll have a look through the C, because there's a lot of basses on C. We've got patch 1, nylon guitar. Guitar number 1, more like a picked electric guitar. Oh, hello, Crime. Nice to see ya. Nice to see ya. Yeah, I'm deconstructing a track by Kraftwerk from the 80s on some 80s synths, and trying to recreate it and kind of make a rip-off track of my own as well. So that's what I'm up to this afternoon. I'm just cycling through some of the patches on this CX81Z synth, which is a synth that was on a lot of big tracks in the 80s. A 12-string guitar. Funky pick sounds nice. I may use that. Alright, so straight away I've got one that I quite like, so I'm going to capture that. This one's called All That Jazz. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to make the notes a little bit longer. Oh, hi Milt, nice to see you. Right, so that's that captured. So we've already got a couple that we can switch through once we start getting to it. So this is the track that we're copying today, or breaking down, and this is the riff that I'm currently kind of recreating. So I think soon, just to make it nice to work with, I'm going to need to start looking at some drums. So I'm going to pull some drums out of these. All the synths that I've got available to me today do have some drum making capabilities as well. So I'll just check that these are recorded nicely. Let's stop that. So that's going well. So you can try out what they sound like together. I'm just going to move that away from that so I don't start that thing off. Okay, so that's what's working. Right, so I want to pull some drums off. So I'm going to use first of all the TX81Z because that's got some really nice usable drums in straight from the off. So I'm going to look at the bass drum preset. I just need to put that track back on in. Nope. Right. I don't think my MIDI's going to it for some reason. Let me just check that. MIDI's not on monitor. There we go. So we've got this pitched bass drum. Let's get that recorded. What I'm going to do, I'm going to just straight record these, and then I'll stick them in a sampler and start chopping them. Oh, no thanks. Sorry. Be easier actually if I put the metronome on so I can. It's probably easier if they're lined up. So I think I can do it like this. Just kind of grab that waveform and then stick it into the sampler. If I trim that, put that on the loop. So if I drop that, I think all I need to do is drop it into an audio track here, and then consolidate that to just be a single hit. Yeah, so that's now just a single hit, and then I can take that, drag it over into the drum rack, I believe. No? Oh, let's get the drum rack open for starters. Just pop that there, open the drum rack. I think, yeah, and I can, yeah, just drag it on straight onto. So now I should be able to just create a loop, and we'll start working as we go through that. So there's that. That's the bass drum. We can edit that a little bit as well. Pitch it down. Change the attack. So let's tighten it a little bit because I don't think it's quite on the start of the note. Okay, so that should be better. Where's the pitch? Where's the pitch? It's on there somewhere. There it is. Transpose, detune. No. Oh, that's the fine detune. So yeah, an octave down. That sounds quite nice. So let's grab us a snare. Let's do the same thing and grab us a snare. So we've got a couple of snares on this. They're all pitched, of course. So I'm going to play it along with the other one and just see which pitch sounds nice. I think I'm going to nick a couple of sounds from up here as well, because you can use them in conjunction, but I like it there, just bang on middle C really. So we'll have that. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Just going to grab it as a loop. And I think I might even be able to get away with not doing what I did with moving it up in there. And let's see if that will just drag straight onto the drum rack. It sounds like Mambo number 5, yeah. Yes, it does actually. I know what you mean. It wouldn't surprise me if it's that is that patch, because this synth turns up on so many bloody songs. Right, so we're going to drag that onto there, and hopefully, yeah, it has. It's captured it just as the loop that we already had in there. So we'll do the same as we do with the other one, just tighten it up a bit. And now we can start adding some synth in. Sorry, some snare. And what I also wanted was just to get a bit of this. So we'll get them little noises as well. Let's grab that. And put it on a drum rack. And then we're going to do the same for the A note, which might B flat. Let's get that captured and get it on the beat. Again, just flip that over onto the drum rack. Now I should be able to use them in a beat. So let's double this out. Let's duplicate that. We should be able to get a little funky little thing going. Just turn that off. Alright, so that's the funky little thing already. What I'm going to do in a minute, once I've got a few sounds together, I'm going to try and recreate the actual beat in the song, but also have a little, a beat of my own to play with. So I think what we'll do, we'll just grab some hi-hats as well. So I've got something. Oh, let's have a listen to snare 2. Ooh, I like that digitally sounding one when we get it in low pitch. Yeah, I'm going to nick them 2 snares as well. They're a nice sound. Just get that lined up with the first part of the beat. And get the other pitch as well. So, right, I'll capture that. And then I'll grab the hi-hats, and then I'm going to start adding some effects and start making it sound like more like a nice funky beat. Let's just put that. Use that as a reinforcer on that snare. It needs to come up a bit in volume, that one. So let's just get the gain up. That's just enough to hear it there. Okay, right, so just get a cheeky hi-hat. I've got one on here somewhere, I'm sure. I've gone past it. Got a noise shot. That's a bit too much, but actually that's very Kraftwerk, so I'll probably find that and use that later on. Tubular bells. Wow, they're nasty. Probably gonna have to find a hi-hat from something else because they are ugly hi-hats. But let's get one anyway. Okay, so I'm just gonna take the higher one. Snap that together. Pop it into the sampler. Right, I think what we probably want to do is gate this one up a little bit, get it a bit shorter. So yeah, I want to turn this, make this a little bit shorter. So what I want to start doing now, I think, is bringing in some effects. I'm going to start by getting some bus effects set up. So this is on the return channels. Now we need, first of all, reverbs. Reverb. That's all right. Audio effects. Reverb. I think whole, we want quite a big reverb. We're going to have multiple reverbs across the track, but for now, let's try the church one. Let's see what that's like. Do it a bit louder so I can hear. Just going to cycle through a few of these and see what we got. That's not too bad. Let's try the stage ones. Yeah, I think I quite like that. It's got a little bit of a short sort of ping on the back of it. And now we want to get some specific effects as well on some of this stuff. So on that main snare, for example, we need to add something. We want to add a gated reverb. Have we got a gated reverb in here, or do I need to go into the effects? I think I probably need to go into the effects racks because it's going to be a combination of reverb and gate. Audio effect rack, reverb, reverb gate verb. Yeah, I'm going to guess that that is a gated reverb. It's just what we want on the snare here to get something quite similar to what's on the original track. Okay, why aren't you playing? That's weird. So the dry wet just it disappears. This is not quite what I was after. So there we are, something more like that. And then I think we're going to need to bring the volume up a little bit. There you go. It's that classic 80s sound with the snare sounding huge because of its big gated reverb. Just have a little look at the settings in this. Darken it up a bit, just kind of make it more low end. That's it. Okay, so let's have a. I've not really thought about that beat as I'm making it. I've just kind of put, random notes in places. But let's have a listen to how that sounds against some of our samples that we'd recorded earlier. Synth samples, that is. Just drop that down a little bit. Set record off. So now I've got it playing back. That main synth line is off. It's not right. So we're gonna have to try that. Try recording that again. All right. So let's send this through to something. That sounds. I think that sounds right to me. Yeah, I think that's roughly there. Let's find some nice tunes for it then. So this is its mini moog patch. Let's have a go with that. I just stop the clips. Nice ringtone, yeah. Right, so let's shorten that a bit. Delete some of these. Something's still sounding a little bit off to me, but I'm not going to worry about it too much because I'm obviously intending to do a separate track with it anyway. Right, so let's see if we can get a drum. Copy some of the drum loops off this. Let's just turn these clips off. So I've got a big bass drum with okay. So what I can hear there, I can hear there's like a crisp, clicky bass drum, and then like a duplicated version of that that's got a big gated reverb on it. And then like the snare sound is it's not really a snare, it's more of a pop. So it's got a little bit of a click, the snare, but there's also like it's like almost like a bell sound in there as well. I suspect it's something FM generated. We'll see if we can manipulate any of the samples so they go a little bit like that. So let's create a new loop. So first of all, get that bass drum nailed down. So it's a snare on the 2, I think it is. Why am I getting nothing out of that one? I shall be right back because I can hear my door going, so I'll be delivery. 1 second. Right, back to it. That's what was disappointed. I want a delivery for me. It was a delivery for next door. I'm not expecting anything, but you know. So okay, so there's I've got a bit ahead of myself there and started putting a beat in that comes a little bit later as a variation. So let's just duplicate that, cut that into a half because I think that's a basic. So what I need to do as well, isn't it, is create that that second bass drum that's like pitched down, I think. Can you copy and paste? Nope. One of these should be the bass drum. that's the bass drum. So we'll create a second version of that. It's like an effect. So this is going to be, I think, 24 steps down. And we'll copy the same gated reverb as we used on the snare. Copy that. Pop it on the second bass drum. Wrong blue thing. Okay, so not getting much off this solo. Let's see what's going on. Alright, so it's got a very short release. I'm sure I can get a better reverb than that. Let's try this subverb. Now we're talking. Let's turn the decay down a bit. Right. So that sounds like it's getting somewhere now. So I think I want a bit more power on the main bass drum. So I think we're going to put a little bit of saturation on that. Gotta find that saturator. Let's try just popping that on there. And then yeah, that was all I needed really, I think. Just that little push, just to warm it up a bit. We just try it. Yeah, so just pull the pitch down on that a little bit. It just gives that slightly sort of sucking sound on the snare. Again, it's not really quite the same as what the original track's got more of a bell sound on it, I think. Yeah, it's definitely like an extra dink sort of bell sound on that, but I'm going to leave that as it is for now. I'm quite happy with that. And that yeah, I think that's what we need to go with it. So I'm gonna just grab that little hit, take it over into the drum rack again like we did with the others. Okay. And then at some point soon I need to label all these up because otherwise it's going to get awkward. Why has that taken that? That's weird. I really didn't line that up well at all. Just kind of changed it completely. So let's get that. Looks pretty good. Okay, so it's not the same, but it's similar. It's the same sort of vibe. It's got that bell kind of thing going on now. Just going to soften it a bit by taking the sustain off a little. Probably pull that now. Just drop the volume on that, so go into mixer mode. Yeah, happy with that. Right, so let's start looking for a little riff to do ourselves. That's kind of similar in a similar vein. Oof. I just pressed the wrong button on this. We've got a preset called Racing Car. That's fun, I like that. Space Talk. Space Vibe. Right, so let's move on to C. Let's go back to C because that's where a lot of our basses are. Okay, yeah, I think I'll go with something like that, along those lines. So what we're going to do, we're going to want to record the MIDI. I need to just turn the MIDI effects off as well because they're not great. They're not helpful at the minute. Yeah, we'll have a bit of that. Nope. Alright, so let's grab that. Let's so take the last one. I think that looks like it's the most in time. Well, it would be if I didn't grab it very wrong. So take it from there up to 0.12 and loop that. So we're going to record that. I'm going to record it again, but 12 steps down. So we've got a little sub bass thing going. I will mix another sub bass in with it. Just for reference, the patch we're using here is CO6 Heavy Metal. Good old heavy metal. Okay, so what's next? Having a brain freeze moment. Yeah, that was it. I was going to drop it to 12 steps below, then record it again. Let's just pop these. No, actually. Now I want a nice sub bass to sit under that, so let's have a look at our good old C15 and stick a lately bass underneath it, because I think that'll go really nice. Okay. So those three together. So I'm also thinking I need to get another reverb. Already I'm like, I need another reverb. I need something a bit higher, but louder. And so let's have a bright and thin. Let's try that as a starting point. Sounds pretty obviously what I was after, doesn't it? Yeah, yeah, happy with that. That's working. So I think the next thing to do is to look at the next section of the song. So I've got one more kind of element to it that we haven't got yet, and literally after that it's just tweaking sounds, changing up the rhythms, dropping little bits in and out. So
Electronic sounds, industrial rhythms all around.
yeah, so we want something that's going to copy that essentially. I think what I'm going to do actually is just save it there for the minute. I'm going to come back to that a little bit later on. Might come back to it later today, in fact. But yeah, I think it's time to take a little break. Thanks for those who popped in. Nice to see you.